Millionaire comes home early and can't believe what he sees. Jackson Cole was one of the most powerful and wealthy men in the United States of America. At 46, he had built an entire technology empire, owning skyscrapers in Los Angeles and multiple projects spread across the globe. People often called him the cold billionaire. He avoided lavish parties, shunned interviews, and buried himself in endless numbers. Success had made him untouchable, but also utterly alone. Yet behind all the glory lay a life filled with emptiness. His wife, Olivia, had passed away 3 years earlier, after a sudden illness. Since then, the vast mansion in Beverly Hills echoed only with Jackson's heavy footsteps and occasionally the bright little voice of his 6-year-old son, Noah. Noah was the only hope Jackson had left, but fate had played a cruel trick. The boy was born with fragile legs and relied on crutches to move around. Jackson loved his son, but he never knew how to show it. The grief of losing his wife and the endless pressure of running a global company drove him to bury himself in work instead of spending time with Noah. Day after day, he left the house at dawn and returned well past 9 at night when the boy was already fast asleep. For Jackson, it was the only way to escape the unbearable loss he couldn't face. Inside the magnificent mansion, Noah grew up surrounded by nurses, tutors, and a handful of household staff. Among them was a quiet but patient face, Isabella Garcia. The young 29-year-old woman had been hired to help with the household chore and to take care of Noah when needed. With her long hair tied back and her warm, gentle eyes, Isabella didn't stand out amidst the grandeur of the home. Yet, she was the only one who truly listened to every word Noah whispered. Jackson hardly paid attention to Isabella. To him, she was just another employee among the many working in his household. But on one autumn evening, when a corporate meeting ended earlier than expected, Jackson decided to return home without notifying anyone. That single decision would open the greatest turning point of his life. When the grand doors of the estate opened, Jackson froze, stunned by the sight before him. In the middle of the living room, Isabella Garcia was kneeling on the floor, scrubbing with a rag in her hand. But that was not what left him speechless. Beside her, Noah, his 6-year-old son, was wobbling on his tiny purple crutches, holding a cleaning cloth, trying to help. "Tia Isabella, I can clean this spot," the blond boy said, his voice trembling with effort. "All right, Noah, you've helped enough. For today. Go sit on the sofa and rest." "Let Tia Isabella finish," Isabella replied gently. "But I want to help. Tia always says we're a team," Noah insisted, struggling to keep his balance, his blue eyes shining with determination. Jackson stood frozen, unable to breathe. His chest tightened with emotions he could not name. He couldn't remember the last time he had seen Noah smile with such unguarded joy. "Very well then, my little assistant, but just a little longer," Isabella conceded. At that moment, Noah noticed his father standing at the door. His face lit up with a mixture of surprise and worry. "Dad, you're home early," he exclaimed, nearly losing his balance as he turned too quickly. Isabella jumped to her feet in alarm, dropping the rag. She nervously wiped her hands on her apron and bowed slightly. "Good evening, Mr. Cole. I didn't know you would be home so soon. I was just finishing up the cleaning." Jackson still couldn't gather his thoughts. He looked at Hisson, then at Isabella, who seemed as though she wanted to vanish from the room. "Noah, what are you doing?" "I wash helping Tia Isabella." "Look, Dad," Noah said proudly. "Today, I stood all by myself for almost 5 minutes. Jackson turned to Isabella. She lowered her head, her hands tightening. "Minutes," Jackson repeated in disbelief. "Noah," explained excitedly. "Tia Isabella makes me practice every day. She says, if I keep trying, one day I'll run like the other kids." The room fell into heavy silence. Jackson felt both unsettled and deeply moved. He demanded, "Practice?" Isabella raised her head, her brown eyes filled with fear. "Sir, I was only playing with the boy. I did not mean to overstep." Noah quickly interrupted, trying to stand between his father and her. "Dad, Tia, Isabella is amazing. She never leaves me when I cry from the pain. She says, 'I'm strong like a warrior.'" Jackson felt his chest tighten. How long had it been since he'd spoken to his son for more than 5 minutes? He swallowed hard and said, "Noah, go upstairs to your room. I need to speak with Tia Isabella." "But, Dad, Noah, listen." The boy looked at Isabella. She gave him a reassuring smile, signaling everything was fine. With clattering crutches, Noah climbed the stairs. Just before disappearing, he shouted, "Tia Isabella is the best person in the world." Jackson and Isabella were left alone in the room. He walked toward her slowly. For the first time, he noticed her reddened hands from scrubbing the floor and the damp fabric of her trousers at the knees. "How long have you been practicing with Noah?" "About 6 months, sir, but I always use my lunch break or finish my duties first. I never neglect my work. You are not being paid extra." "Yes, sir. I never expected anything. I just enjoy spending time with the boy." Jackson was speechless. He asked quietly, "Why do you say he's special?" Isabella smiled softly. "Because he never gives up, even when it hurts. Because he's such a big heart and always worries about others." "Noah is truly wonderful." Her words cut into Jackson's heart like a blade. He had never once looked at his son with such eyes. Those words cut into Jackson's heart like a knife. He had never looked at his son that way before. Jackson tried to keep his voice calm. "Where did you learn to do these exercises?" Isabella lowered her head, hesitating. "I have some experience, sir." "What kind of experience?" Jackson pressed. She remained silent for quite a while before finally confessing, "My younger brother Mateo was born with weak legs. I spent my entire childhood taking him to physical therapy, learning exercises to help him walk. When I saw Noah feeling so sad, I could not just stand by and do nothing. Forgive me, sir, but the boy. He is very lonely, and you are always consumed by work." Jackson was speechless. Isabella lowered her face, her voice growing faint. "If you wish, I'll stop right away. I only wanted the boy to smile more. A child should be able to laugh every day." Jackson froze. He suddenly realized he couldn't even remember the last time he'd seen Noah truly smile. "Isabella, may I ask you something personal?" "Yes, of course, sir. Why are you working as a housekeeper? Clearly, you have knowledge of therapy and are very good with children. Why not work in healthcare?" Isabella gave a faint, sad smile. "Because I've no degree, sir. Everything I know I learned from caring for my younger brother. None of it holds any official value, but I have to work to support my family. My mother and my brother Mateo, he's only 17, goes to school in the mornings and helps at the shop in the afternoons. My mother works night shifts cleaning offices. We just scrape by." Jackson felt a mix of shame and admiration. In front of him stood a 29-year-old woman worn down by the weight of her family's needs, and yet she still found the time and tenderness to give to Hisson. "Have you never thought of studying to become a licensed therapist?" Isabella smiled again, but her smile wasted with bitterness. "Study for what, sir? Where would I find the money?" "The time. I leave home at 6:00 in the morning. Take 2 buses to get here, work until 6:09 in the evening, then 2 more buses home by 8. I help my brother with his studies, prepare dinner. I go to bed close to midnight. On weekends, I clean other houses for extra money. Where would I find the time to study?" Jackson was silent, listening to every word, realizing he had never known anything about her life beyond the 8 hours she spent inside the estate. "Isabella, I want to see the exercises you've been doing with Noah. She hesitated, but the boy is already in his pajamas. We usually practice in the mornings before his online classes. I arrive at 7:30, prepare breakfast. While the rest of the house is still asleep, Noah and I go out to the garden to train. Afterwards, he showers, eats breakfast, and begins class. Jackson was stunned. He hadn't the slightest idea about his son's morning routine. He always left home by 7 and returned only after 9 at night. Even weekends were buried in work. Does Noah enjoy these exercises? He loves them. At first, it was difficult and painful, but now he asks for them himself. Just yesterday, he stood for nearly 3 minutes without crutches. Jackson's eyes widened. The physical therapist had said such progress would take many more months. Isabella blushed slightly. Maybe Noah has extra motivation. He wants to impress me. And she hesitated. He wants to impress you too. Jackson's throat tightened. He had no idea his son thought of him that way. At that moment, the soft tapping of crutches echoed on the stairs. Noah appeared, whispering, "Dad, you're still here." "You should be asleep," Jackson said, his tone no longer stern. "I couldn't sleep. You're not going to send Tia Isabella away, are you?" Jackson froze. "Why would you think that?" "Because earlier you looked so serious when you told me to go upstairs. Mom always sent the maids away whenever they did something she didn't like." Jackson glanced at Isabella, who lowered her head again. He knelt down to his son's eye level. "Noah, do you like Isabella?" "I like her a lot. She is my best friend." "Why, your best friend?" Noah thought for a moment before answering. "Because she plays with me, listens to me, never rushes me. She believes I'll walk like the other kids one day." Jackson's heart clenched, hesked softly. "And what about me? Am I your friend?" Noah was silent, then whispered, "You're my dad, not my friend. Dad is important, but a friend is the one who is always there." The answer pierced Jackson's chest like a blade. He turned to Isabella and saw her eyes glistening red. "Noah, I want to be your friend. Will you let me?" The boy's eyes lit up. "Really, Dad? Really? But being friends means playing together, listening to your stories, and watching you practice with Tia Isabella." Noah leapt with joy, nearly losing his balance. "Then tomorrow you have to come out to the garden and watch." Jackson smiled, a wave of emotions flooding his heart after years of absence. "I'll better tomorrow, I promise." Noah threw his arms around his father. "Now I have 2 best friends, Dad and Tia Isabella." Jackson hugged his son tightly, his chest brimming with love. He whispered, "Go to bed now, champ. Tomorrow will be special day." When Noah had gone upstairs, Jackson turned to Isabella. He spoke just one word. "Thank you." "Thank you for what, sir?" "For caring for my son, when I didn't know how." Isabella gave a shy smile. "The boy is very special. Anyone would love him, but not everyone would have the patience or the knowledge to help him make progress, sir." Jackson remained silent for a long while. A storm of thoughts swirled in his mind. Then he told himself, "Tomorrow I must be there." He knew he had 3 important meetings scheduled in the morning. A video call with U.S. investors at 8 a.m. and a report that needed to be finalized. But suddenly, all of it felt meaningless. "I'll be here in the morning," Jackson said firmly, surprising even himself. That night, when he went to Noah's room, Jackson found his son fast asleep. The boy had placed his crutches neatly by the bed, as if ready for the day to come. Jackson sat at the edge of the bed, gazing at his son, his heart aching. How long had it been since I last watched him sleep like this? How many moments of his childhood had I missed? He pulled out his phone, canceled all 3 meetings, and sent an email to schedule the video call. For the first time in his career, he chose family first. The next morning, Jackson woke up at 6:30. He showered, dressed in simple clothes, something he rarely did on a weekday, and headed down to the kitchen. Isabella was already there, preparing breakfast. "Good morning, Isabella," Jackson said, making her startle. "Good morning, Mr. Cole. You're up unusually early today." "That's right. Is Noah still asleep?" "Yes, sir. He usually wakes up around 8:30. We start our exercises at 8 after breakfast." Jackson checked his watch. It was only 7:15. He stepped closer. "Is there anything I can help with?" Isabella looked slightly flustered. You want to help prepare breakfast, sir?" "Of course." "What does Noah like on Monday mornings?" "Hot cakes, sir. He says he needs the energy to start the week." Jackson chuckled, shaking his head. "Really? You never knew that." Isabella smiled gently. "Always says so. Besides, it gives him motivation for training." Jackson stood watching her skillfully stir the batter and pour each pancake. Suddenly, he realized she wasn't just cooking. She was preparing a little joy for his son. "Isabella, may I ask? You something personal?" "Yes, sir. Why do you care so much about Noah?" Isabella paused, then answered softly. "When I was a child, I often saw my younger brother shunned by others because of his weak legs. I still remember the sadness in his eyes when he wanted to play but couldn't keep up. I became his best friend, making up games she could play, encouraging him to try new things, celebrating every tiny step, and it worked. Now Mateo is in high school. He still has limitations, but he never gives up. He lives with strength." Jackson studied her intently. In Isabella's eyes shone deep pride. "And you want the same for Noah. What I want is for him to be happy. I want Noah to believe he can do anything, because with the loving and complete family he has, he'll go much further than my brother ever could." Jackson's chest tightened with both emotion and shame. He realized that while his son had every material condition, he lacked the most important thing, the care of his own parents. At that moment, Noah entered the kitchen, his hair tousled, one hand gripping his small crutches. "Dad," he exclaimed in astonishment, "you haven't gone to work." "Good morning, champ. Today, I stayed home to watch you train. Remember?" Noah's eyes lit up. "Really? You'll see how strong I've become." "Of course, but first, let's have breakfast. Isabella made special hot cakes just for you." Noah cheered, hobbling quickly on his crutches to the table. Throughout breakfast, Jackson quietly observed. His son and Isabella laughed and chatted like old friends, sharing little stories, planning their training. Noah was so happy he couldn't stop talking, constantly turning to brag to his father. "Dad, did you know I climbed 3 steps of the stairs without crutches?" Jackson's eyes widened. "Really? That is amazing, and I even know some stretching exercises like grown-ups." "Stretching exercises?" "Yes. Tia Isabella taught me. She says muscles have to be ready before practice." "Up." Jackson glanced at Isabella. He could see clearly that she knew exactly what she was doing. At precisely 8:30, the 3 of them went out to the garden. Isabella spread a mat over the grass. "Come on, Noah, let's start with stretches." Noah lay down, performing each movement with such precision and seriousness that Jackson was astonished. "Very good. Now we'll work on balance," Isabella said. She helped Noah to his feet and set the crutches aside. "Try standing for 30 seconds without them. If you succeed, tomorrow we'll try 45. Noah lifted his chin with determination. "I want to try a whole minute. Take it slow. 30 seconds is already excellent." Noah let go of his crutches. Jackson held his breath, watching his son tremble as he tried to stay upright. "Seconds," Isabella counted, her voice full of encouragement. "See that, Dad?" Noah called out, his eyes fixed straight ahead. "I see it. You're incredible." 30. As Isabella finished counting, Noah wobbled and nearly fell, but she caught him in time. "I did it! A full 30 seconds!" Noah shouted in triumph. Jackson swept his son into his arms, his eyes glistening. "Noah, I am so proud of you." The boy beamed, panting with excitement. "Now you understand why I love training with Tia Isabella, right? Aiki." "Understand," Jackson whispered. In the days that followed, Jackson began to change. He no longer left the house at dawn, but instead stayed for breakfast with his son and made sure to watch the morning practice in the garden. The more he observed, the more astonished he became at Noah's steady progress. The boy could stand longer, walk with greater confidence, and above all, the smile had returned to his little face. One afternoon, while Noah was busy drawing in his room, Jackson invited Isabella into the library. The vast room, lined with bookshelves, no longer carried its usual coldness. Standing by the window, Jackson hesitated for a moment before turning to her. "Isabella." Jackson's voice faltered before softening in a way she had never heard before. "I owe you more than just gratitude. What you've done for Noah goes far. Beyond the duties of a housemaid, you've given my son hope, and you have given it to me as well." Isabella shook her head quickly, flustered. "Mr. Cole, I only did what my heart told me to. I never expected anything more than seeing Noah happy." Jackson stepped closer, his expression serious but sincere. "That is exactly why I want to make you a proposal. I want you to become Noah's official therapeutic companion, not just a maid." Isabella froze, her eyes widening. I don't understand." "What do you mean?" I want you to dedicate all your time to Noah. The other housework will be handled by someone else. Your sole responsibility will be to accompany him, support him, and continue what you've been doing, but officially with proper recognition and compensation." Isabella fidgeted, her hands twisting together. "But, sir, I do not have a degree. Everything I know comes from helping my younger brother." "That is not enough," Jackson interrupted gently. "Then I'll sponsor your education. I'll cover the full cost of a formal physical therapy program, tuition, books, everything. Meanwhile, you'll stay here and continue working with Noah. You'll receive a higher salary, and your family will also be supported." Tears welled up in Isabella's eyes. "Mr. Cole, why would you do all this for me?" Jackson was silent for a moment, then replied softly, "Not just for you. I'm doing it for Noah. My son needs you, not only as a friend, but as a source of strength I cannot replace. And for you, I believe you deserve the chance to pursue what you're truly gifted at." Isabella lowered her head as tears rolled down her cheeks. A wave of indescribable emotion flooded her heart, gratitude, fear, and joy a lot once. She thought of her mother working tirelessly and her younger brother struggling to make ends meet. This proposal could change not only her life, but theirs as well. "Mr. Cole," her voice broke, "I won't let you down. I promise to give my whole heart to Noah." Jackson nodded, a spark of trust gleaming in his eyes. For the first time in years, he felt a bright future unfolding, not only for Noah, but for himself as well. News of Noah's remarkable progress soon spread through high society. Some of Jackson's acquaintances, who had always known him as a cold businessman, obsessed only with profit, began to whisper. They couldn't believe that a powerful billionaire would allow a young maid to have such influence over his son. One evening, at a charity gala hosted by major corporation, Jackson brought Noah along. When Isabella appeared, dressed simply in a pale blue dress, several curious and disdainful eyes turned toward her. One guest whispered loudly enough for Isabella to hear, "How strange! Jackson Cole has everything, yet he lets a servant meddle so deeply in his family." Isabella lowered her head, trying to hide her hurt. Noah squeezed her hand tightly and whispered, "Don't be sad, Isabella. I know you're the best." Jackson overheard, and his blood boiled. He turned to face the guests, his voice calm but commanding. "That woman has accomplished what all the money and the best doctors could not. She made my son believe he could walk again. If you cannot understand the value of that, then perhaps we have nothing more to discuss." The room fell silent. Isabella looked at Jackson, her heart swelling with both gratitude and worry. But the challenges didn't stop there. A few weeks later, Jackson received a call from Samuel Wright, a wealthy businessman whose grandson suffered from cerebral palsy. "Jackson," Samuel's voice crackled over the phone. "I've heard your maid is remarkable with special needs children. I want to hire her for my grandson. I'll pay her double what you pay, plus every benefit imaginable." Jackson froze. He answered firmly, "Isabella is not for sale. She's part of my family." But Samuel was not so easily deterred. Just days later, Isabella herself approached Jackson, her eyes clouded with uncertainty. "Mr. Cole, I received a job offer." Jackson nodded slightly, as if he had expected it from Samuel Wright. Isabella hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, they promised to take care of my mother and my younger brother. That amount of money could change my family's life, but I don't know what to do. I don't want to leave Noah." Jackson studied her for a long moment. In his eyes was both respect and worry. He understood Isabella was torn between her duty to her family and her bond with Noah. "The most important question," Jackson said softly, "is, what will happen to my son if you leave?" Tears filled Isabella's eyes. "He would be devastated. Noah trusts me as much as trusts himself. Just thinking about leaving already breaks my heart." Jackson stepped closer, his voice resolute. "Then I will not let that happen. I'll ensure your mother and brother are cared for. I'll match or surpass their offer. But more importantly, Isabella, I need you to know. To me, you are no longer an employee. You are part of this family." Isabella broke down, her shoulders trembling. "Mr. Cole, I have only one thing to say. I will stay for Noah, for everything." In that moment, Jackson realized his family had faced their first great trial, and thanks to Isabella, they had emerged stronger than ever. In the weeks that followed, the atmosphere in the Cole mansion seemed completely transformed. Every morning, Jackson sat in the garden, patiently watching Noah's practice. His presence gave the boy new strength. Noah improved day by day. He could stand longer, and his hesitant steps grew steadier. Isabella was always by his side, patiently catching him when he fell, then encouraging him to try once more. Each time, Jackson witnessed it, his throat tightened. He realized it was Isabella's persistence and love that had ignited the fire of determination in Hisson. Then, on one crisp morning, a miracle happened. "Noah, today we'll try something new," Isabella said with a smile, her eyes glowing with trust. "You're going to set your crutches aside and try to walk a few steps." Excitement flickered in Noah's eyes, mixed with fear. He turned to his father. "Dad, do you think I can do it?" Jackson knelt down, taking his small hand. "I know you can, Noah. I believe in you." The boy's bright blue eyes sparkled. Noah took a deep breath, then slowly set the crutches aside. Isabella stepped back slightly, her arms ready. Jackson opened his arms wide in front of him. 1, 2, 3 steps. Noah trembled, but each step echoed like a drumbeat of victory. "I did it," he shouted, his voice bursting with excitement. Then he stumbled forward into his father's arms, falling but without a trace of tears. Instead, he laughed through the tears streaming down his cheeks. "Dad, I walked. I really walked." Jackson held his son tightly, his heart overflowing. "My boy, you're incredible. I have never been prouder than I am right now." Isabella stood nearby, tears glistening in her eyes, her hand covering her mouth tossed-full. Her emotion. Noah turned toward her and shouted, "Isabella, did you see? I walked." She smiled, her voice trembling. "I saw my little warrior. You truly triumphed." In that moment, Jackson knew his life had changed forever. No business deal, no skyscraper, could compare to the joy of watching his son achieve the impossible. And he knew it was all because of Isabella, the woman who had brought a miracle into his family. After the day Noah took his very first steps, the mansion seemed to come alive with light. The boy grew more energetic than ever, always eager to show his father and Isabella each new accomplishment. And from that day forward, Jackson realized he was changing too. He no longer saw Isabella as just a maid. Every morning, as he sat in the garden, watching her patiently guide Noah, he felt something different: warmth, trust, and a hope he thought he had lost after Olivia's passing. One afternoon, after practice, Noah hurried clumsily toward his father. "Dad, today I walked 6 steps without my crutches. Isabella says, tomorrow I can try even more." Jackson bent down, wrapping his son in a hug. "That is incredible, Noah. I'm so proud of you." He glanced at Isabella, his eyes meeting her gentle brown gaze. In that moment, both of them knew they had shared something extraordinary together. In the days that followed, the bond among the three grew even stronger. Noah often called them his dream team. He giggled, "Dad is the superhero. Isabella is the coach, and I'm the little warrior." Jackson and Isabella couldn't exchange smiles, their hearts warmed by his innocent joy. Sometimes Jackson caught himself watching Isabella as she worked in the kitchen or tended the small garden behind the house. She didn't belong to the glittering world of high society, yet she brought a peace he had never found anywhere else. One evening, after Noah had gone tubed, Jackson stepped into the garden. Isabella was sitting on a wooden bench, gazing up at the starry sky. He hesitated, then took a seat beside her. "You know," Jackson said softly, "it has been so long since I've seen Noah smile like this, and it's been just as long since I felt alive again." Isabella turned to him, her eyes shimmering. "Mr. Cole, that's because of you. He needs his father more than anything. I only played a small part." Jackson shook his head. "No, Isabella, you brought back the light I thought I'd lost forever." Her heart skipped a beat at his words. She pressed her lips together, unable to respond, though her pulse raced wildly. In that moment, the two sat in silence, the breeze rustling through the leaves around them. Yet within that silence, an invisible thread began to form, a bond no longer built solely on duty, but on admiration, trust, and a deepening affection neither of them could deny. In the days that followed, Jackson became increasingly aware of his feelings. Every time he saw Isabella patiently guiding Noah, or heard her gentle laughter echo through the once-cold mansion, his heart warmed. It had been so long since Olivia's passing that he had felt this way, alive, cared for, and full of hope. One evening, after Noah had gone to bed, Jackson asked Isabella to stay in the living room. The soft light cast a glow over her face, her kind brown eyes seeming even brighter in the quiet. "Isabella," he began, his voice lower than usual, "I have been thinking a lot about Noah, about this family, and about you." Isabella lifted her head slightly, her heart racing. "Mr. Cole." Jackson drew a deep breath, his gaze unwavering with sincerity. "I've lost so much, and I closed my heart for a long time. But then you came, bringing light, bringing back Noah's laughter, and mine as well. I cannot deny it any more. Somewhere between grief and silence, you brought me back to life, and with that life came feelings for you." Isabella froze. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Her heart fluttered with both joy and fear. At last, she shook her head, her voice trembling. "Mr. Cole, that can't be. You are a billionaire, and I'm just an ordinary woman. People will never accept it." Jackson stepped closer, his eyes steady. "I do not care what society thinks. The only things that matter to him are Noah, this family, and you, Isabella. You're not just part of our lives, you are the heart of it." Tears welled up as Isabella turned away, trying to hide her emotions. I am afraid if I say yes, the whole world will turn against you." Jackson gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we'll face it together. I once thought I could fight life's battles alone, but now I know. I don't want to continue this life without you by my side." In that moment, Isabella felt the walls around her heart begin to crumble. She didn't answer, but the tears shimmering in her eyes spoke for her. And Jackson knew they had just crossed into a new chapter where love was born out of loss, resilience, and hope. As time passed, the bond between Jackson and Isabella became undeniable. Though high society whispered, he paid no attention. The only thing that mattered was Noah, and the boy had never been happier. Every time he saw his father and Isabella laughing together, he would exclaim, "Now I have both my superhero and my coach right here with me." One spring evening, Jackson sat in the garden, the same place where Noah had taken his first steps. Warm golden lights surrounded them. He held Isabella's hand, his eyes steady. "Isabella, I once thought I'd spend the rest of my life in solitude, knowing only work. But you and Noah have shown me that the most valuable thing isn't skyscrapers or numbers. It is family. Will you marry me?" Isabella froze, tears flooding her eyes at once. She nodded, unable to form words, squeezing his hand tightly. Jackson smiled, his eyes glistening. "From now on, we'll build a true family together." The wedding day arrived, simple, yet filled with warmth. Instead of a lavish ballroom, Jackson chose the garden behind the mansion, the very place where Noah had once run into his arms for the first time. Guests were only close friends and a few colleagues who respected his decision. Noah wore Antony's suit, becoming the special bestman. With pride, he held Isabella's hand and led her down the flower-strewn path. "Miss Isabella, today I give you to Dad," Noah said with a radiant grin, his voice bubbling with excitement. The words made Isabella's heart swell so much that she nearly cried. When the vows were spoken, Jackson looked straight into her eyes. "I, Jackson Cole, promise to love and cherish Isabella, not only as my wife, but as the one who gave me and my son a reason to live, to hope. I vow to place this family above all else." Isabella answered, her voice trembling. "I, Isabella Garcia, promise to stand by Jackson and Noah in joy and in challenge. I am not here to replace anyone, but to build a home where love is the foundation." As the rings were exchanged, Noah clapped his hands and shouted, "Now we really are a dream team." Laughter rippled through the garden, mingled with tears of joy. Jackson embraced Isabella and whispered, "At last, we've found our new path." That night, beneath a sky full of stars, the Cole family began their new chapter. Not just a story of a cold billionaire or a kind-hearted maid, but a story of a family healed by love, bound by trust, and blessed by the miracles that come from the human heart.